What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your old pal Uncle FAFO, above ground, safe and sound, and you're listening to the Gen Extreme podcast. Please leave a comment and hit the like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast fix. I hope everyone had a merry and safe Christmas. We go over my brother-in-law's every year for Christmas, and he has a big living room, and then he has a dining room where he puts the food. So I was in the kitchen, and I was watching my granddaughters and grandson grab cookies and run, and then come back, grab cookies and run. So finally I got up and I went over. I was like, are you all supposed to be eating these cookies? So the little boy does like a Home Alone. He's got his cookies, he screams, and he runs off. And then one of my granddaughters, she tries to be the negotiator. She's like, well, I spoke to my father, and he said, and my other granddaughter's just reaching for the cookies. I go, what are you doing? She's like, I'm eating cookies. She didn't give a fuck what I thought. Yeah, it was like the lawyer and the devil. Their personalities are so polar opposite, but they are both inseparable from each other. How many of you have made your New Year's resolutions? And how many of you know that it's full of shit? Because a day after, you're probably going to break it. I'm 56 years old, made a resolution every year, and I've never kept one, especially if it had anything to do with quitting drinking or quitting smoking. I would pound alcohol New Year's Eve and be like, I'm never going to drink again after this. And then the next day, someone would be like, hey, you want to go to the bars? And I'm like, all right, let's go. Then if it was smoking, I'd be like, all right, let's go to the bar. And then we go to the bar, and I have a couple of drinks, and then I have to have a cigarette. You know what I mean? You have to have a cigarette if you're drinking. I did end up quitting both, but it had nothing to do with New Year's. I just at one point said, I've had enough. I chalked this up to things I really wanted to do as a child and achieved as an adult and hate. One of these things would be shaving. I used to watch my dad shave, but he used a straight edge razor. Screw that. I saw Psycho. I would never use one of them. I used the Bic disposables. But I really wanted to shave when I was young. You couldn't wait to do that. Dad did it and it made you a man. And I freaking hate shaving. I can't stand it. It's awful. And I hate worse is having a beard because it's so scratchy and itchy. Anybody that rocks a beard, kudos to you. I just can't do it. Next would be living on my own. I fucking hated living on my own because I had bills and then I had responsibilities. And I realized that, you know what? My money wasn't my money. And adulting sucked. So anybody younger listening to this, really appreciate the time you have at your parents' house because when that shit's over, oh boy, you're going to learn. Then next would be smoking and drinking. I remember my parents caught me smoking a cigarette, and my dad ended up making me smoke, try to make me smoke a whole pack, but I ended up throwing up. Yeah, nicotine poison, big guy. Same thing with drinking a beer. He caught me drinking a beer, and then he ended up sitting down and having me drink like a whole thing of vodka because he's Polish, and I threw up everywhere. Did any of that stop me from wanting to do it when I got older? Hell no. Do I blame them for becoming a chain smoker and an alcoholic? No. You know why? Because I knew right from wrong, and I chose wrong. I was told that this podcast is like sitting on a porch talking to a friend, and I appreciate that because literally I am upstairs in this room, sitting on the floor, talking into this microphone to you, the listener, hoping that my stories resonate with someone that has an addiction problem or is suffering from depression or has been bullied, or anything in life that you're experiencing. I hope some of my stories resonate with you to understand that you are not alone. You are not going through any of this by yourself, nor are you the first person to ever deal with it. So when I was real little, I had this friend named Ronnie, and he was special. Back then, they used the R word. I never did because my mom and dad told me to protect Ronnie at all costs because he was special. We played Army Men. We played with our Tonka trucks in the backyard. I fought many a kid over picking on him. I lost. I've won. But he was my friend. So his father had got a fish tank, a big fish tank, with a bunch of fish in it, and we went up and we were seeing it. Now, we were little kids, and I don't know any better, so I have a thing of M&Ms, and I love M&Ms. So I was like, I wonder if the fish like M&Ms. So I pour some M&Ms into the fish tank. Yes, I know now that's bad, but back then I didn't. I was a little kid. So his father comes up with my parents, because they used to sit on the front porch, and he sees this, and he automatically thinks Ronnie did it. So he hauls off, and he cuffs him right across the face. And I kicked him dead in the nuts. Now, understand, this is the time where you do not disrespect adults. You were a child, and I thought I was dead. So he grabs me, and my mom's like, let him go now. So he lets me go, and my parents take me home. Now, they lived upstairs from us, so it wasn't far for me to travel. So I run to my room, and I am freaking crying because I know I'm catching the ass kicking of my life. So my door swings open, and my mom's standing there, and her eyes are red. She's staring at me. And I'm just cringing. I'm like, oh, shit. And she's like, just go to bed. So I'm apologizing. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. And my mom was like, look, just go to bed. She's like, we're good. She said, just don't ever disrespect an adult like that again. I did ask her years later why she didn't kick the crap out of me. And she said because she understood that I was defending Ronnie, who couldn't defend himself. And she said she didn't appreciate what I had done, but she understood it. When I started drinking and doing all that crazy stuff, he stopped talking to me, and he moved away. So I'm kind of sad. He was a good friend, and, I understood why he did what he did. I would have done it too. I share that because I was lucky enough where I lived to be around diversity. Like I said before, different people from different colors, different religions, different lifestyles. So I don't have a lot of the prejudices that a lot of people grew up with. So my mom's best friend was Auntie Evie, and her sister was Auntie Fran. And every now and again, we'd go over to Evie's house, and she'd put out the cold cut spread. My parents and her would go into the other room to have adult talk, and I'd sit on the couch with, the plastic over it. And she always had the bowl of the round candy, the hard one. The red and the white was cinnamon. That candy is always stuck together, and you had to pull them apart. So I'd sit there and watch TV. And unless Fran was over, and Fran was my favorite. Fran was absolutely gorgeous to me. She was very slender, very regal. She called herself Redbone because she was lighter. Anybody that's freaking out right now, listen, it was my aunt. That's what she told me to call her, so screw you. But I love being around her. And on Sundays, my dad would take me to church, like Easter Sunday or Ash Wednesday. And we'd go, and I'd get the ashes, and I'd bump my mom's head because she had a bad back and couldn't go. So on Sunday, sometimes my aunties would take me to black church. If you've never been to a black church, my very first time, my mom said they were coming to get me at 8 a.m., and she'd see me later on in the evening. And I didn't understand. I was like, I don't get it, because church is only about an hour. Well, yes, white church is about an hour. Black church is an all-day event, and it's so much fun. I had so much fun. Like, there's singing, and there's literally praising the Lord, and afterwards there's a big banquet, and it's a big regal fest. Everybody dresses real nice and fancy, and it's totally different. Both churches are great, but I really had a good time when I went there. So one day, my dad and them decided they want to go to Canopy Lake and bring my cousin Bruce. Bruce and me have been friends since the crib, so we end up going to Canopy Lake. So while we're at the park, we're having a good time, and this guy walks up, dead serious, to my aunts and says, I didn't realize they let the N-word in this park. And my dad lost his mind. He was like, what? Could not believe this guy just walked up and said that. So my aunts, they're just looking at him, and they're like, we didn't realize that they let freaking ignorant people in this park. Now, I know the words, so my little mouth dropped to the floor. I was like, oh, my God, because they call my aunties that. I'm like, oh, my God. Me and Bruce are all mad. But we're little kids, and we don't know any better. So my parents and them decided they weren't going to let this person ruin the day. So we end up staying at the park and having a good time. So later on, we go back to the house, and my Aunt Fran sat me down. She said, Ben, here's the thing. There's ignorant people like that in the world. She said, yes, there are N-words in the world, but we're black. She's like, and there's a big difference. And I'm like, oh, okay. No, I'm just a little kid. I don't understand. I just know I didn't appreciate that man saying that to my aunt. Now, my Aunt Fran, to me, reminded me of Jackie O, Kennedy's wife. She was just very regal, very elegant, and she was just really nice. So she used to work at Pine Grove Cemetery as a receptionist. And one night, she left work late, and she was walking home, and two white guys jumped her and beat her severely. Broke her jaw, hurt her real bad. So she refused to see anybody until she was better. So months went by, and I didn't see I knew she was hurt. And I knew, I wanted to see my auntie because, she's my auntie. So when we did finally see her, she was still kind of bruised up, and she didn't look, she wasn't the same. You could tell she'd changed. So I remember as a little kid, I was telling her how I was going to hurt those people that did this to her, and I was so mad. And she sat me down, and she said, don't let their anger fill your heart. She was like, let them hate. You don't hate, you love. She goes, I don't hate them. She said, I feel sorry for them, for what they did to me. She never said, if they ever did anything to her, but I don't know, That was my first time as a child actually seeing the effects of racial hate. And it was, shocking to me because I was a little kid, and this is my auntie. I love my auntie. As I got older, I've seen much more racial hate. I remember I had just moved down to Florida, and they were calling me Cracker. And I was like, what the hell's a cracker? And they were like, crack the whip. I was like, what? I was like, my grandfather here immigrated from Poland to escape the Russians and the Germans from killing his ass. He didn't crack nothing. I don't know if you guys remember doing this when you were younger, but you trick someone to go into a closet or into the cellar, and you slam the door shut and shut the lights off, and, and we're not going to let you out. Let the ghost get you. There's a place in Lynn Woods called Dungeon Rocks where these pirates got buried alive, and there's a big iron door, and we used to like trick someone to go in, and then we slam the door shut and be like, the ghosts are gonna get you. But when we were old enough to ride our bikes on our own to go wherever we wanted, we'd go to the beach. And on the way to the beach, there was a gay bar. And for all of you offended, this is what it was called back then, so I don't care. I'm not being offensive to anybody. It's what it was called. And we trick people into opening the door and go in, and we slam the door shut. And, they did it to me. And it never fazed me because I was around gay people my whole life, my aunts, my uncles. So it didn't bother me. So when I got older and I was drinking heavily and having, going out partying, my cousin was at a bar with me. And he was like, hey, I got to leave. I'm going to go to my bar. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, I want to go with you. And he's like, I don't think you do. I was like, no, I do. So he brings me to that bar that I was telling you about when we were kids. And I'm like, oh. And he's like looking at me. I'm like, I don't care. So we go in. And he thought I was going to be shocked or anything. And I was like, I don't care, dude. You're my cousin. I love you. I was like, you are what you are. So when we went in, he's telling everybody, hey, it's my cousin. He's straight. Just don't mess with him. So everybody was really cool with me, and they're buying me drinks. We're having a great time. And, like, there was people there, like teachers and things like that they're like, and I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, I was just shocked at all the people that I knew were there. And I'm like, oh, my God. And so we're sitting there, and I'm getting freaking hammered. And they were doing karaoke. And I looked at my cousin. I go, oh, that girl, that's fine singing. He's like, that's a guy. And I was like, yeah, I got to go. I was like, take me home. I was like, we got to go, brother. He brought me home drunk. I was so shit-faced. But, he was confused. He thought I was going to be all messed up. And I was like, dude, we're family. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I don't care what you do. I was like, that's not who I am. I was like, just be yourself. So I was watching TV with them a while back, and we were watching TV, and he looks at me, he goes, everything's so gay now. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I get it. He's like, but they're trying to force it on everything. Like, every show has to have a gay couple, every show. And I was like, looking at him like, well, what the hell? I was like, they're just trying to, let people see, like, the diversity in the world. And he's like, yeah, but I get it. He's like, but not everybody's gay. And I started just dying. His philosophy is that they're trying to saturate it so, like, everybody will accept it. And he's like, and that's just wrong. In case anybody was wondering, today's show is brought to you by the number 5. For the 5 people that are going to comment saying how offensive this show is because of the topics I chose. And by the letter M. My life, my podcast. Too bad. I do have an update on the Resistance and Little Timmy. He kind of threw a monkey wrench and everything and got a bounty hunter. Baby Wet. So the ladies went over to say something to him, and he busted out with his sister, Baby Wet, and they turned Chew Tobacco into a Ewok in 2 seconds flat. She was cooing and holding the baby, and the baby's got the little pissy diaper, and is just sliming everybody. It's disgusting. Well played, Little Timmy. Well played. How about we do some letters? All right, let's go. First letter, Uncle FAFO. You mentioned authors that you liked. How about some of the books that they wrote that you can suggest? Okay, sure, no problem. I really like Dean Koontz' Watchers. It's one of my favorite books. And Phantoms, if you get a chance to read those. Even Midnight's good if you really want to get into it. Any early Stephen King, like Carrie, Cujo, Night Shift, those books are great. His latest stuff, not so good. Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, any of the Hero Saga, like Dragons of Winter Night, anything like that with Raceland and Jerry, or Battle of the Twins, War of the Twins. Those are great, Raceland and Cameron. I love that story. Ari Salvatore, any of the Dritz Saga. He also wrote a Star Wars book where Chewbacca dies. That was really, really good. If you get a chance to read that, if you're a Star Wars fan, I'd suggest that. Then I like Nicholas Sparks. I like The Notebook. I like The Lighthouse. Those are all good books. Next letter. Dear Uncle FAFO. Name something you totally regret doing. My whole life was basically a regret when I was an alcoholic. A lot of dumb shit. I mean, me and my friends. One of the things I did, so me and Lee, we get invited over to this girl's house, and we're drunk, we're shit-faced. We get there, and we're hanging out, and her boyfriend's coming over, so she makes us go into the cellar. She's like, you gotta hide, get in the cellar. And she locked the door. So we're basically stuck in this cellar. We can't get upstairs, it's locked. We can't get out the back door, it's locked. And I'm pissed because, well, you just chucked us downstairs for another guy, so I'm not in the best of moods. So I had to pee, so I go into the corner to pee, and Lee's freaking out. He's like, what are you doing? You can't pee in our house. I'm like, Lee, I got to go to the bathroom, man. He's like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, so I went over and I opened up her dryer, and I pissed in her dryer, and I regret that totally because these were friends of ours, and I should have never done that. Next letter. Uncle FAFO, why are you alienating an audience such as the millennials and the zennials I'm not. I'm not. I want them to listen. I want you all to hear the stories. Like I said, I'm trying to tell these stories that are different from the other stories that you hear. I mean, a lot of people don't talk about the alcoholism, the drug addiction, the deaths, and that's what I want to get across to these young kids. So no, they're not going to understand getting kicked out the house, not being allowed in the house, drinking from the water hose, but they are going to understand the fact that we all went through drug addictions, alcoholism, depression, thoughts of suicide. And if these stories help one kid, that's one kid that's not going to be a statistic. That's one family that's not going to have to put their child in the ground. Here's the thing. We sit there and we say, oh, these kids are soft. But the thing is, we bubble wrapped them. We did it. And I'm not going to blame them. It's what we did. And yes, I would like to see them be tougher. And yes, I would like to see a lot of them have better work ethic. But like I said before, every finger we point at them, there's 3 pointing back at us. So, I mean, who's to blame there? I'm sure many of you are not going to agree with me, and some of you will. But see, that's the whole thing about discussion, is the ability to talk. No one talks anymore. So me doing this is me opening the door for discussion. So if you're on a forum and you're talking about this, my job is done. All right, let's go to what everybody's waiting for, the DGAF mirror. FAFO, 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 FAFO. He doesn't give a fuck, don't you know? FAFO, 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 FAFO. All right, let's look. I'm looking. Judith from Texas doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks. But no fucks at night, a big and bright. Deep in the heart of Texas. Go, Judith. I'm looking. Abraham from Mexico. Doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks about. Go, Abraham. I'm looking. Sean from New Orleans. Don't give a fuck. Ladies and gentlemen, if you feel that you should be on this mirror when I'm looking, please send a letter in. Let me know, and I'll keep on looking, and I might see you. Let's go and let's grow together. I'm having fun sharing these stories, and I hope you're having fun listening to them. Again, if you have a story you want to share, please send it into the podcast. I'll share one more story before I leave. So me and Lee worked for Showcase Cinemas in Revere. It used to be the drive-in, and they changed it to Cinema 12. And on this particular evening, I'm actually working the door. Usually I clean the theaters. Leland's on the door. So they're cleaning the theater, and this guy walks up with like 6 of his friends, and he's trying to get by. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to the movie. I'm like, no, you're not. I was like, you got to wait till they're done. So he starts losing his mind. Like, you don't know who I am. And he's like going crazy. And I'm like, I don't care who you are, bro. And he's like, oh my God, if we were outside, I'd be beating your ass. And I'm just staring. I'm like, you're still not getting in. So he goes and gets the manager. And him and the group come back with the manager. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, he's trying to get in the theater early. I'm like, I told him you got to wait till the theater's being cleaned. And he's like, you know who this is? I was like, nope, don't care. And he's like, it's Donnie Wahlberg's younger brother. I was like, still don't care. And I'm like, he's got to wait until the theater's clean. I was like, it's only a few more minutes. So the manager looks at me and goes, you do got to wait till the theater's done. I'm sorry. Now, that's before he ended up coming out with the song and being Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. It struck me funny. Of course, he would not know me in a lineup, but like I remember that because I was like, this kid, who the hell is this guy? So whenever someone mentions Mark Wahlberg, I just automatically think tool bag. Have any of you had interactions with famous celebrities that you're kind of disappointed in? Please send in the story. I would love to hear it. Well, once again, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Until next time, peace.